So, how does a country actually learn to spend its money more wisely? Well, today we're digging into that exact question by looking at the fascinating story of Malaysia's budget. It's really a journey of constant evolution, a search for the perfect system to turn a simple budget into a powerful tool for building a nation. It all starts by asking some really tough questions about its most basic tool, the budget. How should we spend our money? And maybe even more important, how do we know if we're even spending it well? We're going to follow Malaysia's journey through these five very distinct systems, starting right from its independence in 1957 all the way to today. Each step you see here on this timeline, it represents a brand new answer to that fundamental question of how to spend better. So let's start where it all began, in an era of control. Okay, so imagine this. It's 1957 and you're building a country from scratch. What's your number one priority? It's going to be stability and control, right? Especially with your money. The goal wasn't about these grand divisions just yet. It was about building a solid foundation by making sure every single dollar was accounted for. Think of it kind of like planning a charity fund run just by looking at last year's receipts. You're only focused on the inputs, the cost of water bottles, the banners, not the actual purpose of the event or how many people you want to show up. The logic was super simple. Just take last year's costs and add a little bit for inflation. Done. What's really interesting here is just how narrow the focus was. The main goal was to make sure nobody overspent. But here's the crazy part. If you underspent, that was seen as bad planning. You actually risked getting your budget cut the next year. So in this system, performance had absolutely nothing to do with results. It was all about how well you stuck to the financial plan. And this really gets to the heart of the trade-off, doesn't it? I mean, yeah, it was simple, it was great for control, but this system never made anyone ask the most important question of all. What are we actually achieving with this money? And that huge blind spot is what led directly to the first major evolution in Malaysia's whole budgeting philosophy. So it became pretty clear that just controlling costs wasn't going to cut it. It was time for a massive philosophical shift. The new focus wasn't just on what money was spent, but on what was actually achieved with that money. This is where performance-based thinking really starts to kick in. Going back to our fun run analogy, this was a total game changer. It's like shifting from just tracking your costs to setting a really clear goal. Like, okay, our objective is to get 500 people to participate, and then you build a budget specifically designed to hit that target. And here's the really big deal. For the first time, the budget became a strategic document, not just some accounting ledger. It forced managers to think beyond just the next fiscal year and to connect every single dollar they spend to a specific, measurable goal. This was a completely new way of linking money to a mission. Now, this was a huge step forward for sure, but it also created some new headaches. I mean, it's easy to count how many people run a race, but how do you measure the success of something really complex like improving public health or education? The next system was all about trying to refine that approach. All right, so the next era wasn't so much a revolution as it was a refinement. The government had the right idea with performance, but the execution was still a bit clunky. The solution was to make it work better in the real world by giving more power to the people who were actually doing the work. This new approach was really built on a simple but powerful idea. Let the managers manage. But this new freedom, it wasn't a blank check. Oh no, it came with a new, much more direct kind of accountability for actually getting things done, which you can see in the process itself. The key innovation here was this thing called the Program Agreement, or PA. You can think of it like a formal contract where managers promise to deliver specific results in exchange for their budget. It created a much, much clearer line of accountability for performance. But then a new, even deeper question started to pop up. Are we actually measuring the right things? I mean, producing a lot of outputs is great, but is it actually changing society for the better? This led to the next big leap. Let's go back to our fun run one more time. Under the old system, success was the output. 500 people ran. Great, but OBB asks about the outcome. Did the event actually raise awareness for our cause in the community? Did anything change because of it? It's a subtle difference, but it's absolutely critical. You can really see the massive jump in thinking here. The focus shifts from just managing a budget to actively investing in societal change. Under this system, a program's funding is tied directly to its ability to achieve its ultimate goal. That forces a pretty ruthless prioritization of projects that deliver the most value and the biggest impact. And that brings us to the most dramatic shift of them all. After decades of modifying and refining the old systems, the government decided it was time for a truly radical reset, to question every single assumption right from the ground up. I want you to imagine tearing up last year's budget completely. Just gone. Instead of making small adjustments, you start with a totally blank page. Every single dollar for every single program has to be fought for and justified as if it's the very first time you're asking for it. This one question, this is the absolute heart of zero-based budgeting. It forces managers to defend the very existence of their programs, not just the little increase they want for next year. It's a radical and honestly, an intense way to think about spending. So now our fun run organizer has to ask, hey, is a fun run even the best way to raise awareness? Maybe we should do an online campaign instead. Does the benefit even justify the cost? It forces a fundamental reset of literally every assumption you have. But, there's a huge catch. While ZBB is incredibly powerful for optimizing your resources, it is, by far, the most demanding system to actually implement. It requires a massive investment in time, in training, and in effort across the entire government. So, after more than 60 years of trial and error and evolution, what have we learned from this incredible journey? What's the big takeaway? Well, we've seen this amazing evolution from simple control to measuring performance to refinement through manager accountability, then to focusing on real-world impact, and finally to demanding a fundamental justification for every single dollar spent. Each of these systems was the right solution for its time, just one part of this unending quest for better governance. And maybe that's the ultimate lesson here. The most important tool for improving a nation isn't just money. It's having the courage to constantly ask better and tougher questions.